was throwing out the trash in my pink nightgown when I heard someone clear their throat behind me. My heart stopped beating. This was not how I wanted to meet my new neighbor. "Excuse me, miss?" I froze with my hand still on the garbage can. "Miss." He called me miss. After 6 months of living next door to Ryan Mitchell, this was our first real conversation, and he had no idea he was talking to a man. "My name is Tommy Walsh, and I've been cross-dressing since I was 16. Started with my sister Laura's clothes when she went to college. 10 years later, I have my own collection of dresses and wigs and enough makeup to open a small store. But I've never been caught outside dressed as Tessa before. Never been this careless." "Your mail got mixed up with mine again," Ryan said, holding out a stack of letters. "Happens all the time with these cheap mailboxes." I should have just grabbed the mail and run back inside. Should have mumbled thanks and slammed the door. Instead, I turned around because something in his voice made me curious. Made me want to see his face when he looked at me as Tessa instead of boring Tommy from 4B. Ryan Mitchell was gorgeous. Not pretty boy gorgeous, but real man gorgeous. Dark hair that looked like he ran his fingers through it. Brown eyes that crinkled when he smiled. The kind of smile that made you forget your own name for a second. "Thank you," I said, trying to make my voice higher and softer. "That's so sweet of you." He handed me the mail and our fingers brushed. Just for a second, but long enough for me to feel how warm his hands were. I wondered what those hands would feel like touching more than just my fingertips. "I'm Ryan," he said. "I moved in about 6 months ago, but we've never officially met." "Tessa," I said without thinking. Then panicked because now I was committed to the lie. "Pretty name for a pretty girl," he said, and the way he looked at me made my knees weak. I was wondering, and stop me if this is too forward, but would you like to get dinner sometime? The words hit me like lightning. Ryan Mitchell was asking me out. Ryan Mitchell, who I'd been watching through my peephole for months. Ryan Mitchell, who mowed his tiny patch of lawn without his shirt on and made me forget how to breathe. I started to say yes, then remembered what I was wearing. A pink silk nightgown and nothing else. No bra. No padding. Just me in a thin piece of fabric that barely covered my thighs. I'm not really dressed for conversation. Right. Sorry. He smiled that crooked smile again. Didn't mean to catch you at a bad time. He turned to walk back to his apartment, and I watched him go. The way he moved. Confident but not cocky. When he disappeared inside, I realized I was still standing in the hallway in my nightgown holding a stack of mail. Back in my apartment, I sat on my couch and tried to process what just happened. Ryan had asked Tessa out. Not Tommy. The woman who only existed behind closed doors and drawn curtains. The woman who was living a complete fantasy. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw someone I barely recognized. My blonde wig was messy from sleep. My makeup was mostly gone except for some stubborn mascara. The nightgown clung to my fake curves in all the right places. I looked like a real woman who had just been asked on a real date by a real man. The smart thing would have been to avoid Ryan from now on. Make sure Tommy ran into him a few times so he would realize his neighbor was actually a guy. Let the whole thing fade away naturally. Instead, I spent the next 3 days planning what Tessa would wear on her date. I bought a new dress online. Navy blue with a belt that showed off my waist. New heels that didn't hurt my feet. A push-up bra that actually gave me cleavage. I practiced walking and talking and laughing until everything felt natural. Thursday night, Ryan knocked on my door at exactly 7. When I opened it, his eyes went wide. "Well," he said, "you look amazing." "Thank you," I said. And for once I believed it. We went to a little Italian place downtown. The kind with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. Ryan pulled out my chair and ordered wine like he knew what he was doing. When he talked about his job selling insurance, I actually listened instead of just staring at his mouth. "What about you?" he asked over dessert. "What do you do?" "I work from home," I said, which was true. Tommy did freelance graphic design from his apartment. Web design mostly. That's cool. Very modern. He reached across the table and touched my hand. "I have to be honest with you, Tessa. I've been hoping to meet you for months. I kept seeing you around the building and working up the courage to say hello. My heart was beating so fast I was sure he could hear it. You were watching me? Not in a creepy way. Just, you caught my eye. There's something different about you. Something real. If only he knew how unreal everything about this was. How much planning and lying and careful construction had gone into creating the woman sitting across from him. How Tommy was hiding behind Tessa's smile and praying he wouldn't get caught. I should probably tell you, I said carefully, I'm not like other women you've dated. Good, Ryan said. Other women I've dated were boring. You're interesting. We walked back to our building holding hands. Ryan's palm was warm and rough from working with his hands. When we got to our floor, he walked me to my door like a real gentleman. I had a great time tonight, he said. Me too, I whispered. He leaned down and kissed me. Soft at first, then deeper. His hands cupped my face and I melted into him like butter. When we broke apart, I was breathing hard and my lipstick was smeared. Good night, Tessa, he said. Good night, Ryan. I watched him unlock his room, then slipped inside my own apartment. Leaned against the door and tried to catch my breath. That kiss. God, that kiss. No one had ever kissed me like that. Like I was precious. Like I was real. For the next 2 weeks, we were inseparable. Ryan would bring me coffee in the mornings. We'd have lunch together when he came home from work. Movie nights on his couch where he'd pull me close and stroke my hair. I was living every fantasy I'd ever had about being someone's girlfriend. But the lies were getting harder to keep straight. When Ryan asked about my family, I made up stories about parents who lived far away. When he wanted to meet my friends, I said they were all busy. When he suggested going away for a weekend, I panicked and said I wasn't ready. The worst part was how good he was to me. Really good. I was falling in love with him. Really falling. And he was falling in love with someone who didn't exist. 3 weeks into whatever this was, Ryan showed up at my door with a serious expression. We need to talk, he said. My blood turned to ice. He knew. Somehow he had figured it out and now everything was over. I let him in and sat on my couch trying to prepare for the worst conversation of my life. I've been thinking about us, Ryan said. About where this is going. Okay, I whispered. I know we haven't been dating long, but I feel something real here. Something I've never felt before. He sat down next to me and took my hands. I love you, Tessa. The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. Love. He loved me. He loved someone who was half real and half fantasy. Someone who disappeared every morning and came back every evening like some kind of reverse Cinderella. Ryan, I started to say. Wait, let me finish. He squeezed my hands tighter. I want you to move in with me. I want us to be together for real. No more sneaking around. No more separate apartments. I stared at him. This beautiful, honest man who was offering me everything I'd ever dreamed of. A real relationship. A real life. With someone who loved Tessa but had never met Tommy. I can't. I said. Why not? Because I'm not who you think I am. Because I'm living a lie. Because you're in love with someone who only exists in dresses and makeup and careful lighting. Because it's complicated, I said instead. Complicated how? I looked at his face. So hopeful. So trusting. So completely unaware that the woman he loved was actually the man who lived next door. The man he probably passed in the hallway, sometimes without a second glance. I need time to think, I said. Something in my voice must have warned him because his expression changed. The hope faded. The trust cracked just a little. How much time? I don't know. He let go of my hands and stood up. Either you want to be with me or you don't, Tessa. It shouldn't take that much thinking. After he left, I sat in my empty apartment and cried until my makeup ran in black streaks down my cheeks. I had ruined everything. The best thing that had ever happened to me, and I had ruined it by being too scared to tell the truth. That was 6 months ago. Ryan still lives next door, but we don't talk anymore. Sometimes I see him in the hallway and he nods politely, but that's it. The spark is gone. The magic is broken. I still cross-dress, but it feels different now. Lonelier. Like playing house by myself instead of being part of something real. Tessa exists, but she has nowhere to go. no one to be beautiful for. Sometimes I think about knocking on Ryan's door, about telling him the truth and seeing what happens, about being brave enough to risk everything for love. But fear is stronger than love most of the time. Fear keeps me safe and alone and living half a life. The day my neighbor saw me in a dress changed everything. It gave me a taste of what real love could feel like. And then it took that taste away because I wasn't brave enough to reach for the whole meal. Maybe someday I'll find that courage. Maybe someday I'll meet someone who can love all of me. The real messy, complicated truth of who I am. Until then, I have my dresses and my dreams and the memory of one perfect kiss that felt like coming home.